Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this fourth in our year-long joint Global U.S. Brain Trust Dialogues. These are dedicated to bringing you the latest scientific, social, and policy agendas to improve the quality of women's brain health and mental health worldwide. We're delighted you could join us today. My name is Melissa Mitchell, and I am Executive Director of the Global Coalition on Aging. At GCOA, we recognize the global longevity megatrend is driving massive social transformations. This demands a fundamental reshaping of many of our 20th century constructs, from retirement to health systems, and requires collaboration and innovative minds coming together from government, academia, NGOs, global institutions, and the private sector all around the globe. While some may see these changes as a warning, at GCOA, we see great potential, and may we all have the privilege of growing older and being healthy as we do that. At GCOA, we recently hosted the 2022 Silver Economy Forum, a global event which took place in 4 locations in 3 cities over 2 days, highlighting the imperatives of investing in healthy aging. Over the course of the 2 days, we heard about the importance of prevention, awareness, and early detection for Alzheimer's, dementia, and overall brain health. And we heard about stark disparities between women and men when it comes to barriers to healthy aging, from underrepresentation of women in clinical trials to financial inequities faced by women who are paid less and go in and out of the workforce for caregiving duties while living longer. These are important factors that go into the thinking behind a forum like this very important dialogue series. As mentioned, a key piece of this work is collaboration. And today we hope to be a catalyst for new ideas, engagement, and collaborative action. The Global U.S. Brain Trust quarterly dialogues bring together influential leaders in science, business, industry, and philanthropy to discuss the greatest brain and mental health challenges of our time. Today's theme is building the future through the collaboration of women in science, media, and philanthropy. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Andrea Pfeiffer, Chair of the Global Be Brain Powerful Brain Trust and co-founder, Chief Executive Officer, and Director of AC Immune. Andrea.
Thank you, Melissa, and congratulations on your very successful conference. Our goal is to live longer, but to live healthier. And I think what becomes even more important in the future is to expand the brain span to, in fact, match the lifespan. And this is something I'm, as a scientist, interested in since many years. And as you know, I have different backgrounds in nutrition and in medicine. And it's really my strong belief that we have to collaborate between the different domains. And this domain includes nutrition. This domain includes sports. This domain includes medical advances. This domain includes vaccination of a population. But this domain also includes new dimensions, digital, for example. As we actually learned from the last dialogue, there are several factors, lifestyle factors, very known to us, where we can really reduce the risk of getting Alzheimer, developing dementia during our lifespan. And the Lancet Commission has studied 12 different risk factors, which actually showed, if you take them together, that you can approximately reduce the risk of dementia by 40%. 40%. The Commission made specific recommendations what might actually lead to this reduction, what we can do already today. So Mia will come back and explain and show these 12 different risk factors. But what I can already say, and this is probably my best introduction to her, everyone can do something, and it's the moment to do it now in order to prevent dementia in the future. And with this short introduction, I really would like now to ask Mia to join me. She's my favorite colleague because she is, in fact, understanding my different backgrounds, my food background and my medical background, which I really believe have to come together in order to achieve getting older and having a healthy brain. So Mia, just to introduce you quickly, you're in fact professor for clinical geriatrics at the Center for Alzheimer Research at the Karolinska Institute and director of research theme aging at Karolinska University Hospital in Sweden. Your work is known around the world, and it's really started with a finger trial, which was a Finnish study, but it's now expanded to the world and will even go beyond what is done today and include actually pharmacological parameters. You wrote a book, and
Yes.
it was with a pretext by the Queen of Sweden. It was really showing her support to your work. You will speak about the content of this book and come forward with some really practical tips what every one of us can do in order to prevent dementia. So I hand it over to you, Mia, and I think you want to show a few slides just to summarize what finger means, where finger stands, and what the future of finger is. Mia.
Thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you, Global Brain Trust. It's my great pleasure to be here today, and I totally agree. Prevention and risk reduction, these are the keys if we want to manage the global dementia epidemic, and there is so much we can do already today, and I'm very optimistic for the future that with joint forces we can do even more. So if we take the next slide, here we see the list of the modifiable risk factors which you mentioned, Andrea. This comes from the Lancet Commission paper. And here we see the list of 12 modifiable risk factors. When I started my research more than 25 years ago, we only had high age and genetic factors. It was quite fatalistic attitude. And now this list of modifiable risk factors has been growing year after year. And there are not only the vascular metabolic risk factors, which you can see here, of course, diabetes, high blood pressure, physical inactivity, but also some more novel risk factors like hearing loss, social isolation. There are protective factors, physical, mental, social activities. And you also see some risk factors like stress and sleep disturbances, which are quite common and increasing, especially among women. We may come back to that, but many new risk factors as well. If we take the next slide, I would say that the challenging part has been how to translate these epidemiological findings to successful clinical trials. It has been not so easy in our field, and this is actually true for both lifestyle interventions and pharmacological interventions. What we did in the finger trial, that was the first randomized controlled trial to really show that if you put together these different risk factors, it is possible to prevent cognitive decline and even improve the memory and different cognitive domains. But what is needed is really packaging all these factors. So it's actually like one hand and 5 fingers, and that's where the finger name comes, or the abbreviation. So it's healthy balanced diet, exercise, cognitive training, social activities, and taking care of all vascular and metabolic risk factors. So it's good to remember, activate all 5 fingers every day, increase the positive things, and try to decrease the negative factors. On the next slide, we see a bit more about the finger trial. We started it 2009, and we published the results 2015 in the Lancet. And it was really a randomized trial. So we compared the multi-domain intervention with the regular health advice. And we could see the clear benefits for cognition, but as you can see, also for many other important outcomes. 20% lower risk for stroke, 30% lower risk for functional decline, quite surprisingly, 60% lower risk of multimorbidity, better health-related quality of life, and even clear health economic benefits. So benefits for the brain health, total health, on individual and on societal level. What we are doing now is we try to analyze more the underlying mechanisms so that we can tailor the interventions even more in the future and make new kind of discoveries. And we are almost done with the 11-year follow-up, so we will surely learn more from the finger as well. What is happening now is on the global scale. We can take the next slide. Is the worldwide fingers. So there was great interest from many countries after we published the finger to test and optimize and modify the finger in different settings. So we launched the Worldwide Fingers Network 2017 to support the different countries. And I'm very happy that today we are having more than 45 countries from all continents. And as you can see, there are 9 completed trials supporting the finger findings and 15 ongoing. Many are actually from low middle income countries where the numbers are increasing even more rapidly. And what we are doing now is upgrading the finger to finger 2.0. And that's more personalized, more individualized interventions and combination with pharmacological interventions when needed. The precision prevention, giving the right treatment for the right persons at the right time. And another important thing here is the data harmonization and sharing, so that we can get really strong evidence from different parts of the world. What is the best way to reduce the risk of DMS? I'm really happy for this global broad collaboration. I really think we can learn a lot in the close future. And my final slide is about the implementation. And that's what I think we should and we can do today with the joint forces. This is data and evidence what can be implemented and used already now. We can use the finger model, increase the awareness. And you see here how we are working today. We have just started the brain health clinic in Stockholm, connected to the memory clinic. We try to work at the primary care level to really find the risk individuals and work with the finger model, and at municipality level where we can move on and use these type of interventions. We also use new technology, the concept e-fingers that can make the interventions even more feasible and scalable. And at the end, we do have evidence to move on because we have been working with WHO with the first risk reduction guidelines. And I really think that is the strong basis to move on with the implementation activities. So again, I'm optimistic for the future, and all hands and all fingers are really needed for this work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mia, for this wonderful summary. So in addition to your scientific work, and I would like to emphasize the data which you have shown, 25% of cognitive improvement, global improvement, 60% reduction of chronic diseases, enormous impact potentially on the society. You, in addition, spent the time and wrote a book. And this book I'm showing now, I hope you can see it. And it's called Brain Health at Your Fingertips. And you could actually see the stickers because I studied the content. But what I wanted to ask, and I think what is extremely important for the audience tonight, based on this very solid scientific data with high statistical significance, published in some of the best papers, what is your advice to the audience? What are the sort of takeaways, the 5 most important takeaways from your scientific work, but also from the communication in your book? And maybe even transitioning to Steffi afterwards, how can we as a scientist contribute to making this knowledge available and actually help the public to live a better life and to have a healthier brain for a longer time?
That's a good question. And this was also why we wrote this book, Brain Health at Your Fingertips, to really make the evidence-based knowledge more widely available. We have the Lancet publication and some nice scientific publications, but how to disseminate the knowledge so that people really know about that. And we know still that many people think that dementia is part of normal aging, and quite many people think that there is nothing we can do to really reduce the risk. And now we have been able to show that by activating the 5 fingers every day, you can do a lot. So my advice would be, try to think the 5 fingers. What can I do with the healthy diet? With physical activity? We are sitting so much, especially after the pandemic, the amount of time we are spending and sitting, and it has increased. So every step, every activity is good for the brain. Cognitive activity, what kind of things our brains can do, the lifelong learning, I think, is important. Social activities, and as part of that is the relaxation and stress management. So brain needs activity, but brain needs some rest and relaxation as well. And then finally, knowing all your values: high blood pressure, cholesterol, glucose, and the weight, knowing them early. So if you take care of all these 5 as early as possible, I normally say it's never too early to start to prevent dementia. Maybe we should start even earlier at the school age. So that would be my advice.
Thank you so much. I mean, we come back because, of course, one of my interests is how we can actually combine a healthy lifestyle with medication. And I know that your new interest goes into pharmacological intervention. We come back to that later in the conversation. So for a moment, I thank you very much. And I'm now happy to move to our next topic. And this is really how we can actually communicate as scientists, as a society, the latest accurate health information which is out there, and how we can use the different channels available to us in the best possible way with one goal, which is improve the brain health of the public, but also in particular brain health of women, because as you know, 70% of the Alzheimer's patients are women and 70% of the caregivers are women. So women have a particular exposure. Now joining our conversation is Steffi Czerny, Managing Director of Hubert Burda Media R&D, founder of the DLD Media, co-founder of a DLD conference at Hubert Burda Media, and organizer of the most important social event at the World Economic Forum. Your background, Steffi, is in political science, is in journalism, and I got you to know as somebody who is very curious about the latest development in science. So while digital is sort of starting to interest us, you're already beyond digital. You're already into quantum technology, into solar technology, into astrobiology, always with the idea to connect these different innovations and build the future for society. And your DLD Digital Life Conference, I was so impressed to see all these different people coming together from very different domains and discuss and prepare the future. So in addition, you're quite an established woman, and I know you're one of 100 most influential business women in Germany, and in particular also extremely good friends. So Steffi, welcome. Let me start with your DLD conference and the idea behind it. So you co-founded this Digital Life Design Conference in 2005, really to connect with different domains. Can you give us an overview, an idea why you did it, and what you think why it's so important to us, to the public, to everyone?
Thank you, dear Andrea. I'm almost blushing about your kind words, and I'm very honored to speak in this wonderful circle tonight. Today. It's good morning and good evening. We have an international audience, so I'm very ready. You asked me why I founded DLD. DLD stands for Digital Life Design, and if you remember, 2005 was 10 years after the internet started to be a consumer good, a consumer media. And 10 years after the start, it was a little bit, you know, how to say, it was slowing. People say, oh, this internet, we don't know what it's going to do. Many critics, many negative vibes was, and I said, no, digitalization will change our world completely. And let's bring together the people who are changing this world, our world, bring together the most important personalities of this world. So I invited Mark Zuckerberg when he had only 2 million users. I invited the WhatsApp founder. I invited a mix of interesting people who shaped the world along this digitalization. But not only them, I invited politicians. For example, the EU Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen was a regular guest at DLD, or I invited artists because I always think that artists are on the forefront of societal change. They are the seismographs if something is changing. IYY, famous artist, he was 2006 for the first time at DLD. So my goal always was to define who are the forerunners, who are the interesting people whom we have to whom we have to watch what's going on with our world. And now DLD is a well-established conference. And to be honest, I'm not so interested anymore in digitalization because I think it's like electricity. It's everywhere. Now we have to think about what's next. What are the next big revolutions? You mentioned it, Andrea. I think quantum will change our world. I think biotech will change our world. Astronomy, you name it, energy is the big thing. What can we do about climate change with the new frontier technologies? This is what interests me. And like a good housewife who loves to throw cocktail parties, I love to bring them all together, give them a good experience. These scientists, the technologists, the politics, give them a good experience, make them talk to each other. And for example, we had 9 years ago, we had a nice Viennese scientist. His name was Anton Zeilinger. And I thought, oh, he's in quantum, he's doing teleportation. Maybe I should do an unexpected thing and connected him to Svante Pääbo, who is a researcher on Neanderthals, and they spoke very nicely about creativity and how there are difficulties and get their science into media. It was a nice panel. I'm so proud this year both got the Nobel laureates, one in physics and one in medicine. This is DLD. Or we had a young singer performing at DLD, I think 2007 or 8. She was the most nicest girl you can imagine. And she wrote a handwritten letter. Thank you, Steffi, for inviting me. Guess who she was? Guess? It was, of course, and now brain is, it was, of course, Lady Gaga. She was at DLD. And I have many of these examples. And of course, I'm a media person. I'm a journalist, a trained journalist, and it's important to get the message out. And the reason why I think I'm here in this great audience and this great panel is that behind DLD, there's a media company with 60 German magazines in Germany, with 80 in the UK. We've been the biggest Western publishing group in Russia since 5 years ago, since Crimea. So I like lifestyle media, I like consumer media, and I think this is important for our messages today. If we want to promote prevention, we need media, or not only the high-end media. We need, I don't want to say the low end, but we need the average media, the normal media who's consumed by our neighbors, by our friends, but also by our shopkeepers, whatever. And this is what I love to address. This is what I do.
Thank you. I think you were extremely successful in inviting people to your conference. Many of them got the Nobel Prize. I was really impressed.
Yes. And before they were before they got the Nobel laureates, they came to DLD. This makes me very proud, you know, to find them before. So I'm very proud, Andrea, that you've been at DLD with your wonderful company.
Yeah, you know, I have hopes. Now in our area, Steffi, I think we need to add additional scientific dimensions. For example, today we are starting to be able to diagnose dementia 15 to 20 years before the symptoms really start. We are moving away from imaging to blood markers, etc., etc. We go digital by way. So I think in the future, or in the very near future, we will use digital biomarkers for identifying patients, testing our risk, etc., etc. So the field is sort of moving into more in different dimension. I have great hopes. I really have great hopes that the platform for actually applying a vaccination, which would in fact be the prevention of this terrible disease for the world, would be able, because we have these new ways of diagnosing the disease. Without an early diagnosis, we can, as you know, not prevent the disease. So how can you, with your media network, help us to enhance the awareness? For example, if you use the fingers, that you have a great chance, in particular if you have Alzheimer in your family, to really do something. And it's not tomorrow, it's actually today. So how can we work together with media as a scientist and promote, of course, accurate information, but make sure that the people start to talk? Because whenever I give seminars, and this happened also to me 2 weeks ago, people came, many people came afterwards and spoke up and said, look, I have a dad, I have a partner, I have a mom, and they have Alzheimer. What can I do? Can you help? But they didn't speak up before. So there is still this sort of fear to speak about mental health in general. Unless we overcome that by opening up this subject, we will not be able to bring down this dementia rate to where we could be. I know you were very successful with the Felix Boda Foundation, which is on colon cancer. So can you tell us what we can do and how you used the Felix Boda Foundation to enhance this awareness? Mm-hmm. I think it would be very helpful.
Thank you, Andrea. Yes, it was a very sad trigger. 2003 or 4, the son of Hubert Burda died of colon cancer. And this was a really sad thing. And we all were so paralyzed about. But after a while, we said, what should we do? Should we fund a science institute? What can we do? And after a while, we realized we are media, and we should put this colon cancer topic, which was definitely not a discussion topic which you would talk about at the dinner table or at the tennis match or whatever. It was out of society. It was out of discourses, of conversations. And it was a subject connotated with shame, with not clean, with whatever. He said, no, we have to change this. Colon cancer is not deadly if you do the prevention, if you know about it, if you know that if you early detect it, you can heal it. So what did we do? We find role models, TV stars, musicians, film people, politicians who said, I do the coloscopy, I do the check-in. when we made big advertisements in our media, we asked companies to promote it under their employees. We did a big positive, we connotated it very positive. We said, it's so much fun to take care for ourselves. Do it. Do ask your neighbor whether it's a family thing in his family. Ask him, make it a conversation topic. And when we proposed it to our editors in chiefs, to our colleagues, they were really upset. You can't do it, and you don't do it. But we did, against all odds, against all media odds. And today we are very, very happy. It's really, it made a difference. There's the number of 170,000 people who survived negative, positive tests. So I think it's very important that we get positive messages out, that we find role models where we can connect, where we look up and say, if they do it, we can do it also. The problem with prevention is that you don't see the results very quickly. Your finger model is wonderful. It's wonderful, but how do you activate people? That's the big questions. And I think if we really want to do it, if we engage it, we have to integrate media. And we have to tell stories. You can change people's mind with stories. And we have to invent good stories. And we can. Yes, we can. And what you also need, and I'm so impressed by all of you, you need engagement. You need engagement to make the world a better place. And prevention, whether it's colon cancer or whether it's dementia, is a matter of engagement. And we should get out the message that it is rewarding to be engaged, that we can really make a difference.
Yeah, maybe a last question, Steffi. I mean, I was extremely honored to actually get the DLD prize. Was the 10th prize.
I tell you, no, Andrea, and interrupt you, because you get the Anna Burda Award for Creative Leadership.
Exactly.
It's to be successful in prevention, you have to be a leader. You have to be a strong leader, fighting prejudices, fighting your own afraidness of doing mistakes. You have to be very open to yourself and to all others. And Andrea, you're a fighter, you're a leader. You fight it against all odds. And now look where you are. You're really a role model, and I'm proud that you accepted the Anna Burda Award for Creative Leadership.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steffi, for saying that. But actually, it was a small introduction to what I wanted to ask you, which is obviously I think it was one of the first scientists getting this prize. And my question was, does this mean that the Burda media are in fact looking into dementia, brain health as such, health issues in a broader way? And then what we all would hope for is how can Burda, with all the reach they have to the big public, how can they help us to use the energy you feel in this dialogue, the dedication of the women you speak to? How can we channel this to something to make our world better?
Yeah, as I said, we have to define role models. International, it's not only on the German market. We have to find the big role models which stand up and say, please do something. We can do something. We have the Mia five-finger approach. We have to communicate it. And I'm sure that we can talk about at the World Economic Forum. We can talk about the interesting conferences in the world and bring the ambassadors for this together. I'm very happy to help it. I'm help with it. I'm doing a DLD in Israel in end of January, the DLD in Munich. I'm bringing a big African delegation to Munich. We have to start small, but we have to spread the word internationally. And this is, I think, what we can do together.
Super. Thank you so much, Stefan. Just a small after comment. Mia is also now working with the World Economy Forum together. They're doing a partnership in the finger study. So the first sort of
I have an idea. This is what we do, as you mentioned in the beginning, we do a party at the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
Why don't we put a handout for and give it away at our party?
Mm-hmm.
Should we do it? We do it. It's a beginning.
All right.
That's great.
Hands-on, very simple hands-on. We do it and in a nice design. I think beauty is very important. Mm-hmm. Beauty and design and art is a way to get people intrigued, to get them in, to draw them in. And let's do it. Mia, we do an after call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, super. Yeah, thank you so much. I can already see that we are starting to create the future. I'm now handing over the chairmanship to Mara, who will in fact have a dialogue with Lola. I'm extremely happy to have Mara as my vice chairman. She represents the next generation of leadership, although I learned I shouldn't say that. And she is really interested in communicating early on, including children, and bringing forward our subject. Your brain health, women's brain health is important, and we need to protect it. Mara.
Exactly. Thank you, Andrea. Well, now that we've looked at the importance of this collaboration between science and media, we thought it would be important to move on to the third arm of building the future of collaboration, which is the role of women in philanthropy. So today it's my pleasure to introduce venture philanthropist and Global Brain Trust member, Lola Nashashibi Grace. She is the founder of the Middle East Children's Institute, as well as Women in Science Switzerland, that benefits the Center for Integrated Genetics at the University of Lausanne, and a co-founder of the Impact Cancer Foundation, Switzerland. I'm so happy to have you here today, Lola. Thank you.
Well,
sorry.
No, thank you, Mara, and that was a lovely introduction, but also thank you to Andrea and thank you to Meryl Comer for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I'm truly, truly honored to be with all of you distinguished leaders, and it's really a pleasure to be here today. So yes, I'm very happy to talk about my philanthropy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lola. So we've heard you describe yourself as a venture philanthropist. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and your overall philosophy regarding philanthropy? What does it take to be a venture philanthropist?
Well, I think Steffi said a lot of it in her talk, because there's a lot of synergies and sort of overlap. But to me, my own definition of venture philanthropy, it's really a combination of entrepreneurship, investment of financial resources, venture capital, and charity. And many people ask, is there even a role for philanthropy in today's world, with a focus on impact investing, with socially responsible investing and ESGs, and focus on environment, social and governance? So why is really philanthropy important? And my answer is, it is critically important now more than ever, because those of us who are philanthropists do not really seek a financial profit. And that's the big difference. We take the risk in an investment that investors are not willing to take. So for that reason, we invest our financial capital, but we also invest our human capital. And my own personal philosophy of philanthropy is based on core human values, which I really believe are the essence of humanity today and the future. And those are the core human values, simple things like gratitude, compassion, empathy, and service, helping others. And I think that all of you would agree that when we help others and those in need, there is no greater reward than from giving from one's heart. And I think I was quoted somewhere to say that I am really motivated through my heart and from my heart and not through profit. So I really believe in that. And similar to starting a company, you know, like any entrepreneur will tell you, what really drives a philanthropist is the passion and the vision and the energy. And that really, that conviction, that strong conviction that drives us every day. You have a brainstorm of an idea and you want to pursue that problem, solve that problem, just like a science researcher will do. You know, I was so impressed, Andrea, when I interviewed you before for the Women in Science, and you said that your passion, your life was to solve this problem of Alzheimer's. And so that I see this over and over again in all the scientists that we support. You know, my epiphany came after 9/11 when I was living in New York and I had just had my 5th child. And all I could see after friends of ours were killed, and all I could see in the media and the news was a world full of hatred, a world full of fear, a world full of violence. And what I could feel in my heart was, what kind of world are we going to leave our children? You know, each one of us has to take action. Each one of us needs to do something, because we can all bring something to the table. And that's really what inspired me to then, you know, work in the Middle East. Being of Arab heritage and being an American, I felt that we had to find ways to bring together, to find our commonalities, and to use women, our experiences as women and mothers, also to solve these problems.
I mean, now that you were saying specifically, you know, you were talking about the Women in Science event, and we know that Andrea was your keynote speaker in your 10th annual Women in Science lecture and lunch. I think it's exactly that passion for your philanthropy that, you know, has driven a lot of this. So I want to know why, you know, you sort of set out to achieve. What did you want to achieve with Women in Science? And what have you seen as the biggest impact, you know, in this decade that you've been, you know, creating this event and sort of focusing yourself on pushing women towards science?
Well, we started Women in Science really, well, more than 10 years ago, but it all started in New York, because I moved to Switzerland 14 years ago, having lived in New York. And I was very, very involved with the scientific community as the vice chairman of the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, you know, for decades. And our family also, my husband's family started the Cancer Research Institute in New York. So we were very heavily, our lives, our personal lives were always involved in the engagement and the intersection between business and science. And on a very, very, very tiny scale, not like you, Steffi, but a tiny scale, we would organize dinners with, you know, business leaders, Wall Street leaders, and scientists, exactly to bring to the table to discuss ways that we can collaborate. So when we moved to Switzerland, we really didn't know anybody. It came with my kids, and, you know, we came as sort of independent, private people. And but we did know 2 amazing scientists who were at the University of Lausanne. One was Nuri Hernandez, who was the director of the Center for Genomics, and the other was Winship Her, who was the head of the School of Biological Sciences. And because we always support communities in which we live, we asked them, what can we do to support you? What research do you need? What do you need as far as, you know, charity? And they said, you know, we're very well funded in Switzerland. We're very fortunate. The government funds us. We're very, very strong in that. But there is a lack of this intersection between the business and the scientific, you know, community, particularly in engaging the kind of dialogues that we were involved with in New York. So we then set up this fund for education in genetics, and it was not an original idea. I don't take credit for it. You know, Rockefeller University has been running a Women in Science for years at Cold Spring Harbor. We started the Women in Partnership for Science. And so I just brought that here. And then the other thing that we do with the Fund for Research and Education is we have a symposium every year where we also bring together, you know, really, you know, world-class scientists in a particular area that give a public lecture. And we also bring members of the business community. But as far as Women in Science, we are, well, the reason for that in particular is to really showcase the work of women scientists, but not just at the highest level, like the Andrea Pfeiffers of the world, or the Melanie Bloch pitches of the world. We have, this lecture by a very, very prominent woman scientist, but we also have 16 tables where we have 2 scientists at each table, and we invite all levels. We invite, PhD postdocs to, junior scientists, to senior scientists, and we have a dialogue where the women share their experiences, their research with the women at the table. And so our women, attendees who are leaders in business and philanthropy, learn from latest developments in science, but we also share our own, experiences as women leaders and guide them. And we've also funded, of course, those women scientists who are at sort of the middle level or critical points in their careers to enable them then to go to the next level in a very competitive field.
It's amazing the work you do. I mean, I've been able to be at 2 of your conferences already, and I've seen the type of women that you're supporting, the sciences that you're supporting, and the work that you're doing. But I think I want to ask you something that I think is very close to both our hearts. It is this idea of philanthropy and how do we go forward. I know you have 5 children, which I think is amazing with all the work you do and the fact that you've been in finance in the past and that, you've developed so many things. How have you done it to have your children so engaged in social projects? What advice would you give for those who wish to pass their social consciousness and philanthropic spirit onto their children, or those who want to, make this world better, but aren't quite sure, how to begin? What would be your best suggestion?
Well, it's very simple. I think it starts with values, right? And lead by example. I think, very clearly, we need to express our own values, our family values to our children, and then just, bring them along. I mean, I was introduced to philanthropy as a young girl growing up in South America. My mother would take me to the favelas in Brazil. My mother would take me to the orphanages in Costa Rica. And so that was my example. She was also very actively engaged with the Arab community when they were living in San Francisco as an activist. And so again, I learned from my mom, and I've done the same thing with my kids. I just bring them along, whether it's going to Bosnia, whether it's going to visit, the widows of Srebrenica, whether it's taking them to the Middle East, to war zones. I just drag them along. And I really think it's really important for all of us just to make sure that our children know and believe that they can do anything, that they can realize any dream, and that anything is possible, and that each one is different, accepting their individual differences and letting them just know that no matter who they are or no matter what they do, what they're doing is important.
I completely agree with you. I think we were both lucky in that sense. And my mother was a guiding force in terms of philanthropy at home. And it does start at home, like a lot of things. But I love the fact that we can put together, the importance of science, the importance of media and philanthropy all together, because we do need to collaborate together. So thank you, Lola, for your insights and leadership in this field. I've enjoyed having you here today, and I so appreciate.
I do want to say about the digital therapy, though. You can ask me about MECI. Do I have a minute to talk about that?
You may.
Okay, so the charity that's really the philanthropy that's closest to my heart is the work that we've been doing in the Middle East. And for 15 years ago, we started working in a rural village in Palestine with children who were severely suffering from trauma, school absenteeism, and also from anemia and malnutrition. So we ended up working with the local community, and we developed what we call the child-centered community development model, which is based on education, using sports, arts, music, and psychosocial therapy, but also working with local village women, setting them up as entrepreneurs in a nutritious health program and community service. So all of that, fast forward to 15 years, we have now expanded to 147 schools, working with 30,000 children in Jordan and in Palestine. But more importantly, now as we look towards the future, we are very interested in mental health and the mental health crisis. And we have been talking about technology. We have been working with a startup out of Stanford University and have developed a digital therapy Philanthropy app that addresses anxiety using AI and augmented reality. So sort of the future where we're going now is bringing in technology, not only in the education of the children, but also in therapies. So I just wanted to mention that.
No, you needed to mention this. I think I'm baffled by the amount of work that you do in the scientific space, in the mental health space. And I think this is exactly what we need to show people, you know, that you need to, as Steffi said, we need to take hold and start, you know, with our bit, but you've done so much.
Sorry to interrupt, but Lola, you have to bring this app to DLD. This is exactly what we need, what we have to showcase at this conference I'm doing. By the way, I did a conference.
I like that, Steffi. That's a very good idea.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's very exciting. Now, we ran a clinical study and under scientific, you know, controlled conditions, and the results are extraordinary. Really.
Lola, come with the guy, with the startupist, and we do a session. We do together a session.
I think both of you are so correct. And I want to
bring my daughter because it's her startup.
Yeah.
I bring my daughter.
I want to say to both of you that, you know, your support to the Global Brain Trust is just so important to all of us. And it's so important to bring this forward. But unfortunately, I will now pass on to Melissa to finish off this conversation. And thank you again to all of you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Mara. Thank you. Thank you, Steffi. Thank you, Lola. Thank you, Andrea. And Mia, this conversation, we want to continue it. So we really want to go down this path that we've started on these conversations around the roles of media, the role of science, the role of philanthropy, how it all comes together. And I think what we're seeing in the conversation here is that nothing can happen without incredible passion and the need for and bringing together to ensure that there's engagement around some of these critical issues that you women have so much passion for. So I want to bring back together our speakers, because I want to throw out a couple of questions because I think you led us all to be thinking about what we can be doing. We recognize that the collaboration is definitely broader than a two-way street. And so I think if we can come away with some concrete actions for those who are listening today on the webinar, there's a question and some comments that we've seen come through the chat. And I think they're kind of referencing, you know, how do we as leaders in our communities and in different ways, how do we engage in this process of bringing together these important pieces? And we're thinking about bringing together media and science, for example. And you talked about earlier, Steffi, about how, you know, we talk about disease. It's not a fun thing, but it's an empowering thing. So how do we make that both at a large scale, but also at smaller scales, to be something that we are empowered to do? So I want to start with Steffi and just sort of throw that question out there. If those who are listening on this webinar right now wants to think about how they can connect science and media, or how they can be a catalyst for engagement in a community, perhaps at a smaller scale, what are some of the things that they can do, or what can they be thinking about doing to enable and empower and drive some of these messages like prevention that we talked about today?
Thank you, Melissa, for this question. If you remember, Lola said in her 5 value things, not 5 fingers for prevention, but 5 value things. One was very important to me: be on service. You know, I think the first step into action is that you have a service mentality, that you don't do things from top down, and how can I be on service? This is, I think, a very important question we have to ask all of ourselves. There is this, there's this word from Kennedy: don't ask society what can society do for you, ask you what you can do for society. I think it's timeless. It's still very, very important that we ask ourselves what we can do. And being honest to yourself in what you want to engage for is the first step to do something. And then, as we just saw, then we have to connect. Together we are stronger. All of you who are listening from everywhere in the world, let's connect. Let's do something together. This is my advice.
It sounds like a wonderful invitation to figure out how we take this forward. And I think I want to I'd love to throw the question out for Lola and Mia to give their thoughts on that as well. how do we take it forward? How do we activate within our own communities, understanding that we have so many women leaders here who are doing their day jobs, who are taking care of their families, and how do you fit that into what we do just as normal people?
Should I start?
You go ahead.
Oh, please.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I have so many ideas after this meeting, and I think, Steffi, you said it already. It's important to get the message out. We have the scientific model. We could maybe use the finger model somehow, because we have it's a randomized trial, it's evidence-based, is the brain health, is the prevention, how to make it something positive. So it's hope linked to the action. And we could use the finger model because it's something practical. All hands and all fingers are needed. We all can do something. And as say, starting early, you can adapt that model to different phases in your life. In the future, we maybe have 10 fingers because we are learning more, and we can visualize it. We can add the vaccines, we can add the medications. So I think we need just to make the story out and make something positive, something that people want to hear, because I think there are still the stigma. It's not always so easy to talk about memory problems, but I think this part, as said, a hope linked to action and making something that can empower the people is there. So with joint forces, I think we can do a lot. My part as a researcher, I always want what we can share that's evidence-based. And that's what we try to do in the Worldwide Fingers, finding models that are feasible and that are scalable globally, also in low middle income countries. So I see actually many ways what we could do in the future. Thank you for inviting me to be here today.
And I just want to add that it takes a community to do things. As Steffi said, we can't do anything on our own. And when you have your passion and you have your vision and you know that you're doing something from your heart because it really, really means something to you, wonderful people will come in your way. And if it's this community bringing together all these wonderful people from the Brain Trust, it's just community that really makes it happen.
Just one thing to add, I got just today and this week, I have been getting emails from India, from Nepal, from many countries who want to do the thing. So I think there is so great interest if we can just do this with joint forces. So it's really.
But how do we do it? How do we get together in real time? How you have to, Melissa and Andrea, you have to connect us, and we have to get along from now on. I'm
in Switzerland, so I can easily come to Germany.
Yeah, please come. Please write down 12 to 14th January. You're my guest. I'm looking. You bring your daughter. We show the app. Let's do a Women in Science. Andrea, you come. If you have time here on the way, we shuttle to Davos. You come too.
And I'm
happy to join whenever. I'm in Sweden, so it's not so far away.
I love this idea as well, ladies, about bringing in the next generation to these conversations. Yeah. So I think I'd like to challenge the Brain Trust to say, let's bring in the next generation of leaders in philanthropy and science and media to be part of these discussions. I think that would be really exciting. We are running low on our time. I think we could continue to talk for a while, and the questions of how we were going to pull it together, I think we aim to be a catalyst to bring folks together post this conversation. So I want to turn it to Andrea.
I'm sorry, I have to leave. I have to give a speech in 10 minutes.
Steffi, thank you so much. Here. Thank you so much.
Let's stay in contact. Come to Munich.
To give some additional remarks, some closing remarks here about what she is most excited about from this conversation and how we do take it forward. So please, Andrea.
Yeah, so I don't know how you feel, but I feel extremely inspired today. It was really a wonderful experience. And I think after this testimonies, with dedication, this passion we felt, I really believe there is strong reasons for hope. We must anticipate the future and act now. We learned this by taking a lifespan approach to brain and mental health, and it's now where we have to act. And we are not powerless in the face of dementia and neurodegeneration. We heard about lifestyle, we heard about how we can reduce the risk. We heard about how media can help us to distribute this information, scientifically sound information, and help the public. So As a last sentence, I would like to say it must be our goal to prevent rather than to treat dementia. We can do it by combining early diagnosis, digital markers, lifestyle changes, nutrition, and safe and efficacious medicine, for example, including bringing a vaccine to patients by 2030. But this will be only possible to build this future by this collaboration between public and private institutions and with the support of philanthropy and media. And last but not least, I think women can be the driving factor behind it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrea. What a wonderful closing to this session, as well as wrapping up the 2022 season for the Global US Brain Trust Quarterly Dialogues. Thank you so much, Andrea and Mara and everyone, for all of your leadership on these dialogues and to bring so many influential women together. And hopefully we can move things forward together as well. So we'd like to thank all of our wonderful speakers here today, really for your enthusiasm and for your ideas. And I want to encourage you, please, for all of you who are watching, please don't miss the Global US Brain Trust's upcoming November Brainwire, which will share highlights from today's program. And in December, our Brainwire will recap the best of 2022. So thank you all again for your time. I'm Melissa Mitchell, and from the Global US Brain Trust to all of you, we hope you have a very happy and healthy holiday season.